So this is a short, simple tutorial to show how to animate an underwater scene, specifically a submarine traveling along on an ocean seabed. And we're going to use the browser, the content browser in Maya, to create some underwater effects and caustics. So let's get started. So let's go to Windows Content Browser. I'm in Maya 2014, by the way. And we can create all sorts of things in the content browser, but I'm going to go to the Effects tab, Fluids, Ocean Examples, and we're going to scroll down to underwatercaustics.ma, and I'm going to click on that, and that should create some caustics for us. Now, if I look in my perspective view, I've got here it's created a plane for me. That's a NURBS plane, so you've got to make sure that NURBS surfaces is turned on. It's also created a camera for me, which I'm going to look through. So I'm going to go panels, I'm going to select that and then go panels, look through selected. And that's now looking at the seabed. So if I go to my render settings, let me just pull this up so you can see what I'm doing here, because it may not be showing up. Got render settings up. So if I click on the render settings, what we're going to want is not Arnold, but Maya software to make this work. And I'm going to select JPEG, because I always like to make a JPEG, and I'll call this seabed test. Just get that right. And generally we want name.hashtag.ext, and our renderable camera will be the underwater camera that we've just created, and I'll go to 540 HD 540 for my preset, my image size. So I'll come back to that later. But let's I'm just going to close that out, and then we'll just do a quick test render. So if I go to the render menu and I just go render current frame, we will get something that looks like this. So you can see we've got a really nice undersea effect here. So what we're going to do now is to import a submarine. I'm going to animate a submarine traveling underwater, and we'll create a series of images to create an underwater effect. So let's go ahead and get started. Actually, the first thing we want to do is I haven't actually created a project and set to it yet. So let me take this off. So I'm going to go File, Project Window, New, and I'm going to call this Submarine. Whoops. Submarine underscore, today's date is the 1st of May 2024. So then I'm going to accept, and then I'm going to set to that project. There we go, set to that. So now I know I'm in the right workspace in Maya. And then I want to go and find myself a submarine. So I'm going to open up Google, and I'm going to search for Turbo Squid, which is a place I like to go and get free stuff. I'm going to have to log in, because it always wants you to log in. And it's going to want my password. Once I've logged in, I'm going to search for Submarine. Search. There we go. And I want to search by lower prices, not best match. There we go. And I can pick really any one of these. So there's the first one. And that's going to allow me to, I can download that particular submarine, and it will then allow me to download it as various different file types, but I'll go for an FBX because I know that I can open that up in Maya. This tutorial is aimed at beginners in Maya, by the way, which is why I'm going through all the steps here. But there we go. In my downloads folder, I've got my submarine.fbx. So I'm going to go Control-C to copy that. I'm going to go to my documents folder, Maya projects, and let's find the submarine that we've just created. There we go. That's why you've got to create a project and set to it. And then we're going to drop that in the scenes folder. So Control-V, paste my FBX into the scenes folder there. So now I've got my submarine in the scenes folder. Now I'm going to go to Panels, Layouts, 3-pane split top, which is the sort of standard work space in animation. On the right hand side, I'm going to have my underwater camera. On the left hand side, I'll just have a standard perspective view. And now let's go ahead and import our, so we go File, Import, to import our submarine.fpx into our shot. And in comes the submarine. Now it's enormous. We're going to have to make it a lot smaller. So we're going to go Windows Outliner. And I can see it's come in as various different bits of geometry. So I'm going to Shift select all of those and then go Control G and call that subgroup. So now I've got my submarine, and I'm gonna scale it down so that it's much smaller than it is. It's way too big at the moment. So there we go. I've got it selected in the outliner, and there it's showing up in the channel box down there. And if I take this down to scale 0.1, press F over here, it's still way too big. So let's try 0.01. There we go. So now we've got our submarine, and I can see we can see the camera is kind of pointing at it here. So let's take it down even smaller, 0.001. Now it's teeny tiny. Press F. There we go. Now I can see it's actually, the camera is actually looking at it, because there's our camera there in the perspective view. And I can now animate that. Let's just take it above the seabed. And let's make our shot 99 frames. So 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000, 4, 1000, that's about enough. So I'm going to move it, slightly away from the camera there. Actually, let's be a little bit shorter. 75 frames, that should do it. 3 seconds should be fine. And then let's set a keyframe on it at frame 1 and another keyframe on it at frame 75. So we're just going to have it kind of travel along there. Maybe turn it slightly. And have a look at that curve down there in the graph editor. So generally speaking, we don't want to slow in and slow out. We want it traveling at a constant rate. Don't need all this information here. So if I just press A, and I can flatten that curve by just going to the straight tangents button there. And then if we go up here, we've got our submarine kind of traveling along there. Now we might want to kind of make it a little bit more, it's traveling at a slightly even rate, so maybe we just make that a little bit more eccentric. And we can also animate the fin at the back. So I can take this little fin here and just select that. Let's just move that out a little bit so it's a little bit more obvious. And let's see, if I go to rotate Z and type in 1 at frame 1, and then at the end frame 75, let's type 1000. And just see what that looks like. Okay, that didn't work. Zero that out, or just set a keyframe. Oh, it's because I didn't set a keyframe. Rookie mistake. And then 1000 there at rotate Z. So now I should have, there we go. I've got the turbine, the propeller turning, I should say. So once again, let's make that a straight curve so that it's traveling at a constant rate. And let's have a look at it in our underwater cam. Great. So that's all working fine. I can just do a little test render as well. Render current frame just to see what it looks like. Great. So now we've got our submarine underwater looking pretty good. So let's go back to our shot camera, and let's just make sure we've got that selected. The best place to select anything is always in the outliner. So Windows Outliner, there we go, got our camera selected. And let's just keyframe that a little bit. Let's move it out a bit. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of sort of turbulence to the camera, because of course if we've got an underwater camera, it's going to be moving. It's not going to be, there we go, so something like that, where the camera itself is kind of moving around. So we're basically adding a little wobble to it, because it would wobble, right, because it's underwater. So let me just take out some of that turbulence. So it's just kind of bobbing around there. Let's have another look. Also, we want to turn on the resolution gate. It's this person up here. See what we're actually looking at. That was a bit sudden. Select that camera again. Nope, not that one. Windows, Outliner, select the camera. So just smooth that out a little bit. We want a little bit of wobble, but not too much. So let's just go back there. So now we've got a kind of something like that. All right, so now let's render that again. Just make sure it's all working. Render current frame. Great. So we've got a submarine traveling along the seabed. Now, what we need to do is go into our render settings. So render settings. We're going to render in Maya software. We're going to render HD 540. We're going to render the underwater camera. And how many frames are we going to render? So let's render 1 to 75. Close. And then we're going to go in our rendering menu. We're going to go render sequence. Let's open up that, make sure we're using the right camera, and render sequence and close. And it will now, Maya will now render out each one of those frames to our images folder in Maya. And then once I've got that, I can open that up using either Premiere or any other software. And I personally like using QuickTime on my Mac because it's incredibly quick to turn that into an image sequence and then a video. But you can use any editing software you like to create a video out of your rendered images. So now if I want to see what I've done, I open up a window, go to Documents, Maya, Projects, scroll down to Submarine, and open up my Images folder, and I will find under Temp all the images that we've just created. So there we go, Seabed Test, and I can shift select those, open them up, or I can import them into Premiere, export it as a movie file. But now we will get a film, a video of the submarine underwater.